Season's greetings, punters, and welcome to this week's edition of the Melbourne Pro Punters panel. As usual, Racetrack Ralphie.
I'm back in more suitable attire than a fortnight ago when I was in the suit.
We gave it a try, just didn't work.
And Darren Potter. As usual, I'm Anthony Jupp.
You still are?
Yeah.
I've been playing bingo. There's only two numbers: house, whip debate, firm tracks. So that's it. There won't be any more racing coverage for the next 6 weeks in the mainstream area because they've covered the whip debate and they've covered firm tracks to the way they cover it, and that's it. I think that's the only two issues they can do it. This time in April, May, they can start talking about jobs.
The track's been firm, have they? Where?
Well,
I've been walking them. The only one that could have been firm was Werribee because I wasn't allowed on there.
how would you know? Because you only walk them and then measure the data that comes through. I mean, what you need to do, you need to speak to, I don't know, someone who syndicates European horses. Races on our tracks. And then if they get sore, you can say that it's the track's fault.
So I walk around these tracks pushing a pole into them with the same pressure every step. I've got a dirty big filthy callus on my hand to prove it. And I can assure you that in the recent weeks, the tracks I've had the most difficulty getting a pole into or could get it in like really try. Ballarat was number one. In the home straight I could only get it in like an inch. Like it was really very firm.
Sorry buddy, but did you walk a full lap at the Ballarat Cup though?
No, I walked from the 1,000 metres to the winning post.
1,000, yeah. So, because what was really noticeable, and I'll get to the broader picture here, but while you mentioned Ballarat, was from the 800 to 400 on Vincent's times, they're around 10 and a half.
There was at least one rating difference from the 800 to the 400 than there was from the 400 to the rest of the home straight.
So you're not telling me that facts actually match up with data?
They match. And that's to do with the draining point and the camber on the turning part. So in the home straight it's fairly flat.
Yep.
And it's a higher point. It's not as, but on the turning part,
there you go.
The grass is lusher.
I just realised that I've lost something.
You found it.
Right, that's okay. Good. Continue on.
Continue on. So it was firmer out there. So the hysteria about the track bias on the day at Ballarat Cup Day, and I know we touched on this a couple of weeks ago, but now I'm asking you through the prism of are firm tracks dangerous? That was a very, very firm track you're saying at Ballarat Cup Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
The cup winner was?
Polite to say.
Now, he got spelled after that, did he?
I think he might have got on the pattern to win again.
Fuck me. So
he probably wasn't the only one either.
So a horse that ran on the distance race, so if firm tracks are going to be cruel, an animal welfare issue, surely the horse who runs over the furthest distance, who's taken the most strides, would be under the most threat of injury.
Apparently.
And then 2 weeks later he wins the Pakenham Cup.
He's a European horse too, isn't he?
He is too. He's a French horse.
But Lord Van Persie ran in the Ballarat Cup.
Yep.
He ran in the Pakenham Cup.
Yep.
There he was running the nice race on Saturday.
Yep.
He must be in the hospital ward at the moment. Surely.
And so where it's all connected here, I think this is important on what we do and who we talk to, because we actually just talk to punters. There's a lot of issues in racing, and as we speak, we just found out that the Victorian Racing Minister said he's going to change the government structure, and I'm a bit interested, but I'm not interested in it here. There's a trainer who's been under the pump, who we're not talking about here, because it's not about trainers' issues, but Potts and Juppy, welcome back Juppy to your own show. The firm track debate is a punter's issue. Because if we don't rise above and stand up and say to the Terry Hendersons, to the great Lee Freeman, to Darren Weir, who's a fucking genius as well, if we don't rise above and stick together and say, sorry boys, as good as you are as trainers, and Terry, as good as you've been syndicating horses and identifying the ones from Europe, this is all with respect we say, but we're right.
Yeah.
They're wrong.
Yeah. And the figures back it up.
That's the point.
So if you want to go around on soft tracks and run around for ribbons, leave your horses in Europe. So if you want to come and run over
I just think that the trainer's opinion in this debate gets a very good run. Okay, the media representatives seem very keen to give voice to the trainer's thoughts. So on Monday on RSN, let me finish, Juppy. On Monday on RSN, they had Robbie Waterhouse and Lee Freeman, and
Hello,
Matt
Robbie.
Stewart just didn't want to listen to Robbie Waterhouse. He paid. If you asked Matt to recite some of the facts that Robbie Waterhouse gave him, Matt would be unable, because all he wanted to do was push the trainer's agenda. So it seems to me that the lead writer at the biggest paper in the state has become a mouthpiece for trainers. Matt, your audience are punters, mate, not trainers. And it flows into the same debate about, we've had trainers recently talking about lack of tempo in races. Darren Weir saying there should be a rule like they had in trotting where the light goes off if you're going too slow. So he's talking about the race at Sandown 2 weeks ago that, can't remember the name of the horse.
I think he was talking about the Flemington race where he had the horse from
the Flemington race, Electric Tribute, yeah.
And he had on wings.
So I've just got a comment to make to Darren, right? I understand what you're saying. I too am often frustrated with slow tempos in races. But Darren, you've got on wings in that race. I've looked everywhere in the rule book. I can't see the rule anywhere that says the Darren Weir runner's not allowed to go to the front. If you're not happy with the tempo, change it.
And the other day, Waterhouse and Peter Moody training the winners up the front.
Well, that's one of the problems. Gay doesn't have a lot of runners down here. We've lost Peter Moody. So it's absolutely right, Ralph. There is an opportunity for trainers that want to train their horses to race regularly on pace. We've got a glut of trainers in Victoria that just are horrified if their horse goes to the front.
But with the racing media, they're wanting to keep trainers on side. If they upset the trainers, how will they get the endless amount of trainer reviews we get on the radio?
That's actually a fair point. I'll finish off what you're saying as well. The racing media are barnacles on the ship of trainers. They bleed them dry of time after time. Trainers who are good enough, or maybe they're not that busy at times. Not many of them, by the way, because it's the most busy occupation of all time. I have great respect for them.
I know about that.
100%. But as you say, it's just wall-to-wall trainer interviews because the information that they generally put out is shit. So what you're saying, and unlike you don't know Matt Stewart, do you?
No.
Right. So I've always said this, and this is not my forum, this is the boys. Anyone who peddles a personal agenda on someone else's forum is weak as piss. I'm not going to do that, but Matt, I don't like Matt, and Matt doesn't like me. But that's just by the by. Personalities aside, this is the point. The point is that Matt and most areas of the racing media don't talk to who we do, which is punters. Yeah. That creates an opportunity for us. It creates an opportunity for you and me to run a business and all that type of stuff. But I'll give you a great example, and you can look this up, and it's away from what we want to talk about with the firm tracks, from last Saturday week when Divine Mr. Artie won.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't spoken to either of you about this. What was your initial reaction when Divine Mr. Artie won and was super in winning? What was your initial reaction?
I'm not on this.
Yep, what was your initial reaction?
This horse has gone really well,
Yep.
which was counter to the way he'd gone at the jump outs.
Yep.
But and that the big teams were all over it. They were right on it.
So, Divine Mr. Artie has a figure from Moonee Valley a year earlier, where he ran second to Rolito, who never quite got right again. It was a horse of those shows. And they ran super time, and he was unbelievable. He battled his way through the winter, possibly didn't like wet tracks. He was often unlucky, often in the wrong spot. Shit happens. But to me, the story was, wow, how did the big players know to not just back this, but just not stopping it? The only thing, to use your phrase, the only thing that stopped them back here
was the race jump.
Was the race jump. That to me is a story from a punter's perspective. Why did the market know, and why was the big players and the big teams who moved the market so confident that Divine Mr. Artie would run so well, and then Divine Mr. Artie did run so well? The next day, Matt Stewart in the Herald Sun, I'm only writing it not because it's Matt, but because he's, as you say, the leading writer in the Herald Sun. Matt Stewart wrote about how Brendan McCarthy wasn't on course because he had a broken arm. Who gives a fuck? I'm sure Brendan does.
Get well soon, Brendan.
100%. I'm sure his family does if he can only pick up the groceries with one hand, or it'd be inconvenient to him doing his work. But to people who are the customers of the industry in numbers, it meant nothing. But the story was there that is of interest to us.
Yeah.
Of big interest. And by the way, I know you're not either, but we're not saying there's anything integrity-wise about it.
No.
But we're intrigued, why was this horse so truckloaded? Then by extension, and this does relate again to Matt's campaign on Friday, which he got totally wrong because he said about the straight track being a disgrace and it was only the outside lane and then on Saturday or the inside lanes one, or the inner part of that group. The story on Friday became how the track played to the outside. Well, my question is, from the Divine Mr. Artie race and the other horse of, the one word name of O'Shea's that Williams rode as well.
Yeah, Khaki.
My story and questions that I want from the racing media, including Matt, who are pretty quick to sink the boots into curators, who are like should be paid okay, nothing more, nothing less, doing their best, have staff, they're all on mortgages I assume, and doing their best too.
Hard-working people.
Hard-working, decent people, and in Victoria we are blessed to have the ones of the standard that we do. They're happy to put the boots on them, but here's another question I want to ask from that day at Flemington that wasn't addressed. If Craig Williams is diligent and professional enough to walk the best part of the track and identify the best part of the track, what the fuck are the others doing? Why are the others so bone lazy? I'm not saying all of them, but enough of them. Let's face it, we go, what are you doing? Why aren't you thinking? Because I would say, and I spoke, don't guess, you might get, but I spoke to a pretty significant person in racing that we've all heard of last week, and he said Craig Williams is almost the best jockey in the country for this reason. He probably has the least natural ability.
Yeah, he just works hard, yeah.
He works hard and he's made himself a star, so he gets the big tick. Now, how's he working himself a star? He identifies the best part of the track like you will, and that's something that we've all got in common. So to me, there's two stories that's of interest to punters that don't get touched.
I just want to come at this from a different angle. If this was 25, 30 years ago, when we still had a strong racing media in the traditional terms, so the landscape's completely changed, it's all online now, like, as we keep hearing, the Age is probably going to look at, in the not too distant future, there won't be a midweek edition, there'll be weekend editions and you'll be able to get it online. That's where we're moving. But I'm talking about back in the days when I was a kid, where there was still a morning and an afternoon edition and there were proper racing riders. If there was an issue with the tracks like this that we're going with now, do you think one of them might actually go out there and have a walk around and try and talk to the curators and talk to these blokes to learn a bit more about it before they went and wrote the articles?
Well, Chubby, I could even make it easier for them. Like,
If they can bring
all they had to do was log on to the VRC website on Saturday morning. Mick publishes a PDF document that's got a map of the track on it with like a heat signature, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That shows you what parts of the track are a good 3, a good 4, a 5 or 6, so on.
Yeah.
Like it's colour coded to that effect. And
I'll cut it. We're filming, it doesn't matter. He wants 2 beers, please, if you can. Yeah,
please.
Thanks.
Sign language wasn't working.
No, it wasn't working.
So if you had gone to the VRC website, you would have seen the going stick ratings inside now, the shear rating, and a map that showed you that the only parts on that track that were in the 3 range on race morning were the inside half of the last 300 metres.
Last Saturday.
Last Saturday just gone. So the inside half of the last 300 metres and a little bit around about the 1,000 metre mark. Right, so the rest of it was a 4 on race morning. And so you didn't even have to walk to do that, but if you'd have walked it, you would have found the same thing. I found the same thing.
I found the same thing.
I still thought they were going to go to the outside because only because I anticipated that the jockeys would just do what they did the week before. Okay, which again points to either a lack of conviction. Well, maybe, so that's the second point. But the first point is there maybe is a lack of conviction. They're not sure, so, and they're scared of criticism, so let's just go to where the place where we're not going to get criticised, which is the outside, or they haven't done the work, and then they're not going to, if they have done the work, they're not going to follow their opinion. Because if you delve into the sectionals of the last 400 metres from the meeting that's gone on Saturday, it's clear that the fastest times on the card will run in the 1400 and 1600 metre races in the last 400, right? So the straight races, they're on the outside fence, running into the wind. In the 14, they're on the inside half of the straight, running into the wind. The fastest sectionals over that 400 period across the day come in the 1600 metre race.
Well, let's give the punters those. Have you got them there, Potts?
No, I haven't got them. It doesn't matter. Like they're on the website. And the ones that I published on the website or Matt published on the website for me, are just the field last 400s. But if you actually look into the
individuals,
into the section of the winner, okay, the winners ran up to 4 lengths quicker on the inside half. So I'm saying all the jockeys that were drawn the inside half on Saturday in the straight races, they missed an opportunity to gain a significant advantage. And Regan Bayliss got shoved there, posted there, closest to the inside of any horse in the straight races all day, exposed to win the whole race on decision time, and he won the race in what I would say is the best ground.
Well, I've got Vince Cardi's just sheet, which is just the winners and leaders. I haven't got his full OVR yet, but I'll just open up then. Kenterwood has run 11.20 from the 600 to 400, and then 11.18 from the 400 to 200, and then 11.40. Kenterwood would not have run that fast in his life. Now, I look at sectionals all the time. I would comfortably say that. So either as an 8-year-old, as he 8 or 7, doesn't matter, as a veteran horse, either he's suddenly improved or the track was faster.
Or the point is, we're saying if we're out
those 1100s,
look at something in the decision time race. I mean, decision time was closer to the inside than anything, but still probably wasn't running as quick as.
Well, that was the mid race. So 11.08, 10.98, then 11.34, and his last 200, they were all out in their feet. So 12.04, which if you don't study sectional times, that's not uncommon for sprint races. That those slowest.
Is one of the last ones.
Because that's why they're sprinters. They can just go in that early part, can't they? And then the race is over.
And especially with those straight races where they tend to sit up for the first half, and then just before when they come onto the course proper, it really seems to ramp up, and then.
And the main point is that racing's full of subtleties.
Yes.
Okay, it's not like dramatic, but so I'm not saying that the inside was significantly faster than the outside.
No,
it was marginally possible. Like I can't be categorical about it. I think there's evidence to say that the inside half was marginally quicker than the outside half. And the main point here is that the track was obviously very different than what it was a week ago. Because these are dynamic beasts, these tracks.
You're not saying
there's work being done on them. Yeah,
you're not saying like actually grass is living.
That's it. So everyone has to remember that after the carnival, on whatever the 10th of November or something.
Can I just give everyone an insight into what happens here? So the three of us, myself, Potts, and Matt Welsh, we filmed the show last week. Then after we finished filming, we went for a walk. Potts had literally walked from the outside fence to the winning post and said, "This is completely evened up from last week, and there's going to be nothing wrong with the fence here." And that's exactly how it played, wasn't it, Potts? It was just that there was no, as opposed to the week before where the fence was a bit of a disadvantage, there was none of that this week.
So then we walked 1,000 metres, from inside to outside, zigzagging the whole way, right around to the 1,000 metre mark. And when we got back, I said, "This track's incredibly even."
Yep.
It's incredibly even. And anyway, the point is, on the 10th of November, Mick cut the grass back to a millimetre. So it's every week since then, it would have been different.
Yep.
And he's got equipment going around that track all the time, So it's just anyone that wants it to be like the same thing week after week, you're just going to be disappointed. It's not going to work that way.
So you mentioned on 3 years that they had this discussion. I didn't listen to that show, but I saw that Rob Waterhouse put out some information about a study he did a few years back. I actually tweeted him and said, "Can you do that?" He did, and it's fact, right? So here's the point where people want to argue about people that look at data and say, "Oh, it's just data or times aren't everything." You can't argue with mathematics. Now the interpretation of it can argue, and when it comes to predictive analysis, it can argue because that's what fucking makes the game intriguing. And as you said last week on the show, it's dynamic chess. Anything can happen, and you try and use fundamentals. But when you're measuring backwards, it's fact.
Yeah.
Predicting forward is prediction. So Rob Waterhouse puts his stuff out, and I've sent out a Twitter poll, and yes, I use Twitter for my own benefit and to get up people's noses on purpose, and I do that quite well.
I just use it to rant.
And you do too.
And just fucking generally pick fights.
I've tweeted, and obviously more punters than breeders or those side of the fence, but I tweeted out a survey. Do you believe Rob Waterhouse, who studies data of every horse in Australia, or Terry Henderson, who syndicates European stayers? 84% Waterhouse firm is good, 16% Henderson firm is bad. So you're saying that Rob Waterhouse was trying to put facts and figures forward, and that he wasn't being listened to nor getting a fair hearing?
Well,
or was that what
he
words in your mouth?
He wasn't being listened to. So Matt Stewart, from the minute Rob started talking, from the minute he opened his mouth, all Matt Stewart was doing was preparing his next line of attack.
Yes.
He wasn't listening to what Rob Waterhouse was saying. It just made no impact on him. That the scratching rates are far higher on rain-affected tracks.
Yes.
That the breakdown rate is marginally higher on rain-affected tracks. All those points, they were quite...
And wagering confidence goes through the roof on good throws.
Yes. Turnovers considerably up on good tracks. And
when Caulfield is fence on, again, this is fact, not opinion, fact. When Caulfield is firm fence on, there's the figures.
Well, and
why? But hang on, let's answer, particularly for punters who are trying to learn more. Why, Potts, would Caulfield turnover go through the roof when it's fence on? This is how Caulfield should play.
Punters just they go, oh, this seems fair.
I know what to expect.
It seems like I'm going to get a fair go here.
That's it.
You know what I mean? When they start seeing really odd things, like horses going to the outside rail, they just go, oh, anyone can win here. It's pick up sticks, you know. And whether that's true or not doesn't really matter. That's their perception.
Yeah.
You know.
I think if you spoke to a lot of the outside of the sort of group that we sort of target, if you went and spoke to the punters that were in the pubs or the clubs or the tabs or betting with the corporates, they would have said that with the straight races last Saturday. However, don't come in then and kick the track, because it wasn't the track's fault. It was the fact that, as Potts touched on earlier, the jockeys thought this will be the same as last week, we'll head to the outside, and it turns out that it was slightly inferior going out there.
Yeah, and from race morning it was evident that we're going to have a strong southwesterly wind. I mean, that was in the forecast from Wednesday, and it was a massive factor in those straight races.
I think the other thing we should put on the table, because unlike people who want to just run agendas, we want to put all arguments on the table and then be, you know, are we right or wrong? So the kickback, when we say turnover goes through the roof on firm tracks, the kickback, right there on Olympics, the argument is, well, punters don't give a stuff about the welfare of horses. We're you know, being callous and who cares, and you don't care. So let me just drag that one out, right? About the don't care. Think of it this way: if we're putting our money down, why would we not want horses to run to form? Let's say we're callous, and I say we're callous to a degree. Obviously,
we have to be.
I want everyone to be healthy, happy, man, woman, or beast. But all we want is to back and win. We want to. If we're investing, we want to be right. The best way of being right is for horses to run to form, and the best way horses run to form is on good track.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything?
Well, there's an obvious answer here. Trainers scratch far more horses on rain-affected tracks. Full stop. I'm not doing that. The trainers,
the punters aren't doing that.
As soon as the race club puts out a heavy track, the scratching rate goes through the roof. So, like, I just don't. It just is very. It's a peculiarity. It's almost like it's always after the meeting. You know what I mean? We want to run on a good track. Then after the meeting, if our horse is a little bit sore, we've got to work. You know, we've got to do something that. It's a problem.
Can I just make one other point? Yeah. It's something that Mick Goody said. I can't remember whether he said it on the show or said it to us spots. At the end of the day, it's an outdoor sport. It's a seasonal thing. If you want a green top wicket and you think you're going to get it on Boxing Day in Melbourne, as opposed to Lords in July over there, it's going to be different because it's going to be 35 degrees here for a week before it let up. It's just it's the prevailing conditions.
But the point you raise is a good one, Juppy, because what do people want? Okay, so last week, so Mick, let's just go back a step again. Early in November, after the carnival, he stripped it back to 1 millimetre.
There was nothing.
It's hardly rained since. Mm-hmm. So the only way that grass gets any water is through irrigation. So last week, there was a meeting, back-to-back Flemington meetings. So following that meeting, he started irrigating. He irrigated every day, and he presented the track. I mean, it's not like he wasn't putting irrigation on it. Every night he irrigated it. There was I think there was 42 millimetres of irrigation for the week.
I have a fact.
So it takes time. If any of these people that write about this stuff that want more irrigation put on the track, have they ever gone out there and watched what's involved? With putting 6 millimetres of irrigation on Flemington?
As in getting off their arse and actually doing
well, it takes.
I can tell you now, look, Mick, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure for them to put 6 millimetres on the entire 2 kilometre circumference takes 4 hours.
No, it's more than that. It's closer to 7. and it takes 2 blokes to do it.
They have two.
So let's follow up a couple more points that you've said here, and one I just want to completely back over with about the animal welfare side of things. I've said about from the punter's point of view, and you go, but our horse are sore. I am telling you, if you're an owner and you are being told that the horse was sore because the track was firm, you are being told bullshit.
Well, it had a pre-existing condition.
I saw David Bourne,
Bush,
Bush Bourne, tweeted out after I said it. He goes, in my experience, and I think he's had a lifetime in it, good horses like good tracks. Horses with issues don't like.
Yeah.
So in other words, all it does is expose them. So more to the point, go back to your trainer when they say, oh, the firm track caused it to pull up sore, and say, how come thousands of horses around the country race at far north Queensland and Perth and all through WA and all through bits of country Victoria and New South Wales and etc. on the wide brown land? How come so many horses are able to go with rock hard tracks and our horse couldn't? Could you please explain that to me? And why are you blaming a firm, perfectly presented track? I just want to finish on this point, because one thing that again comes up with the data, and the data is facts. So if you want to say data, go for it, but it's facts. If you see Vince Accardi's sheets, just the basic stuff, which doesn't involve links or benchmarks or anything, just this, how fast did a horse run between there and there? 800, 600, there and there, 600, 400, etc. And you've seen them. In country Victoria, often you'll see horses run mid 10 seconds. 10.52, 10.58, whatever. Then they come, and then same day on these supposedly firm tracks at Flemington, the winners are running about 11.1, I just said about Kengewood. So that means one of two things. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but it means one of two things. Either the horses in the country are faster than the horses in the city, or the tracks are firmer in the country.
Well,
so the whole argument's shit.
I reckon yesterday's a perfect example. I reckon during the summertime, I don't think there's probably a firmer track anywhere in the state of Victoria than Echuca.
I would agree with that.
And yet, haven't seen a big stable that isn't unwilling to send a horse to Echuca at any stage. And if we had DK here, I'm pretty sure he'd back me up that some of those Echuca maidens tend to be some of the better maidens around.
So then Warrnambool, on December 1, on these sheets that say how quick the leaders run and how quick the winners run, obviously sometimes both, but leaders and winners, and I don't know what you've seen, like, so who won that Judges beat Lord Tennyson?
Yeah.
That track that day was rock hard. I backed Hijack Hussey because it ran fifth on that rock hard track. Now, I'm happy to head wobble and all that, and I'm delighted that the form held up, but here's the point. Michelle Payne, who's a serial firm track whinger, rode dodgy bullets in that race, who backed up 8 days later at Flemington and ran second. So it couldn't have backed up if firm tracks are dangerous, because the data clearly stated that the track was firm. Hijack Hussey, Darren Weir trained, couldn't have backed up, and the other horse, Artie Shaw, that nearly beat Kengewood at 50s, ran that day as well, and we've had a heap of winners through that day.
Was that also the Planciel day?
No, that wasn't Planciel, but a horse yesterday, Igatura of Weary's, that ran third in the maiden that day and then bolted into the Echuca. None of it stacks up to any factual basis whatsoever, other than how often do we see gear changes with European horses, bar plates, concussion plates, shoeing changes. So Terry Henderson, good on you, Terry, but you're bringing in soft-feeted, soft-hooved, whatever the expression is, European horses. Bad luck. This is what we want to race on. This is what we want.
I don't know what the alternative is. I mean, I don't really care less. I couldn't care less. I don't care. I'm happy to bet on slow sixes. I'm happy to bet on sevens. It doesn't make any difference to me. And when I do my sets, I always write that when it gets to a 6 or a 7 or whatever, it will be a testing track.
Yeah.
Okay, and the margins on those type of tracks bear that out.
But tell people what would happen if RVL bring in the policy, which is all vague and which the Great Leaf Freedom and others vaguely touch on. What would genuinely happen if RVL brought in the policy and said we need to earn more on the side of 5s than 4s to make sure there's always good given? What would happen?
Well, you'd have a completely compacted irrigation lane.
Yep.
So Mick would either, in Flemington's case, or whichever track it is,
he'd have to go over the tank.
They'd have to be constantly either verti-draining or aerating
those
sections to keep them from being just highways. So even if you're putting water on it, like, see, you can't. People have to realise it's impossible to irrigate those tracks completely evenly because it doesn't just.
Yeah.
There's a tractor involved. You know what I mean? Or it's horizontal sprinklers, which then it doesn't drain evenly. And then if the track's significantly cambered, it drains to the inside. So it just creates its own whole set of problems. But I want to finish on the point I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Once we get the tracks 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they become more testing. Margins get magnified. Why do they get magnified? Because horses are under more duress.
Yes.
They're feeling whatever issues they might have, they start to feel them and they drop out and stop quicker. So I mean, just from from a betting point of view, I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. What does worry me is that other people do. Okay, so there's less money in the pool. But from my point of view, I'm happy to bet on those testing tracks. But just from a pure observation point of view, I would think horses are under more duress on tracks where whatever it is, whether it's their legs or their fitness or whatever, is being fully tested and fully exposed. And it's not, because the firmer the track, the more tempo becomes an issue.
And to Danny O'Brien's credit, and I've asked Wayne Hawkes this directly when I was on 3 years in, and he said exactly the same thing. There's a group of trainers who believe that firm is better, and exactly what you're saying. And I've spoken to a very, very serious horseman who's been involved with some greats, who said the worst part about those type of tracks is you can't get their backs right, the muscle go out, the joints. He said, so it might be, whereas a firm track is a bit like after an AFL game where everyone's iced up. It's a bit, they pull up a bit sore, but then 2 days later they're fine. Whereas if you strain a hamstring or a muscle or anything else.
So my final word on this subject, sorry Jumpy, do you want to go? Yeah.
No, you go, and then I'll chime in to wrap it up.
So my final word on this subject is Victoria is blessed with some outstanding track managers.
Correct.
We've just got to let them do their job, and if they're not capable of doing the job as prescribed, then find someone that is. But these guys are outstanding. We're so often presented with fantastic tracks to bet on, and from people that want to criticise tracks, do yourself a favour and actually go and talk to them, go and have a look, try and find out some information.
And they are generous with their information.
They are, if you're willing to have the right attitude, you know what I mean. So there has to be an understanding that it's not like something you're manufacturing. It's a changing environment all the time. It's very seasonal.
All right. To finish this off, I want everyone to cast their minds back 5 to 10 years. You blokes will remember the original Flemington, the original Caulfield, before we ripped them all up. Why did we rip them all up? Because the same trainer base were whinging that we were losing Saturday meetings in the middle of winter because the tracks were too wet. Fine. The clubs went away, built these super draining tracks, and we go out and walk them. And you've seen them, Potts. You've seen them on a warm day where you can follow them around. So if you walk onto the track as the irrigator goes one way and you go the other, by the time you meet the irrigator, it will have dried out. Like, that's how quickly these tracks drain. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have genuine give-in tracks in the middle of a dry spell. There's been 28.6 mils of rain since the close of the Melbourne Cup Carnival here in Melbourne, and that includes the Jews overnight.
No, and not me when he says the Jews.
You can't have both. If you want to run, and we had last winter, when we had a relatively dry winter, we raced on good 4 tracks,
sensational,
week after week after week after week at Caulfield and Flemington.
Yeah.
I didn't hear a peep out of anyone at that stage of the year. Now we get to the similar rated tracks now, and all of a sudden we've got horses pulling up sore. You can't have both. Right. Either have a Pakenham where it's a summer track and you race on the synthetic in winter, because I'm telling you now, with the Kikuyu grass that they've got out there at Pakenham, if you want to sell Sandown and you want to go and race out there, be prepared for Wednesday synthetic meetings, punters.
Brian Martin tweeted out, he said as an owner he got sore. I said, Brian, there's not standing up to scrutiny. I go, if it's an animal welfare issue, I like that, what it was worth. If it's an animal welfare issue, how come when you were calling that great era of Voro, Citizen, Superimpose, Better Loosen Up, and you pull that out on YouTube and do it, there's a great Voro thing I actually found in trying to check it. hard, there's dust flying, they're running 2 minutes dead for the Australian Cup, they're running fast. So if it was animal welfare, how come all those horses, Faux Rogue won 26 races?
But it's even later than that, Ruck. If you go and look at Lonhro's Melbourne Australian Cup, it was the old Flemington there, and it was a road.
Yes. So, and Brian said, well, it shouldn't be like seasonal. And as you say, this is the developments. Now, don't tell me it's better for racing overall to have, if you go to the MCG or Etihad in June, during the week, you'll see these big heat towers and heat lamps and all that, because they're trying to make the best surface possible, Sydney Boyd Potts. But
they're trying to get the grass
30 years ago, AFL was like that. Now it's perfect year round. We need to get the best tracks we possibly can. 100% what Pot says, we're blessed to have the curators we have. As Juppy says, they've got the best equipment. Leave them the fuck alone, let them do their jobs. They're experts.
All right, well that's enough ranting for now. So we'll be back
Another one
after I get another beer, and we'll do part 2.